All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
And good morning to all of you across the world. You know, we have worldwide viewership. I know it seems incredible. It's true. We can bring the good part of America to the world right here, everyone. Good morning from Jim Shields. Jim Shields is in the house, everybody. Ricky O'Bear1 says, hit the thumbs up button and then subscribe. I mean, come on, it's so easy. Kim is here.
Kim, how are you?
Kim, how are you today? You've been battling an illness of some kind. It's been persistent.
The battle continues.
It really does. The battle continues. Well, as I've told you, it's only your donations that are going to bring Kim back to health, ladies and gentlemen.
That's what it is.
Square, what up? Good morning, Square, what up? You know we are so ready for the championship round of March Madness.
There's never been anything like this.
There really hasn't, Mr. President. Thank you so much. Grady, Murphy, Sayo Jones, everybody's here, everybody. Let's get on it. Well, I do have a terrific show laid out. I mean, some breaking news, big news. I tried to say breaking and big together, and it turned out to be neither. But I really do have a bunch of good stuff for you today from the news standpoint. I have Supreme Court, I think a revelation out of the Supreme Court from ProPublica. I'll share that with you. Kim and I watched, I guess Kim had already seen it. I thought it was, I'd never seen it, so I thought it was kind of an interesting thing to watch the sit down between Anderson Cooper and... what's her name again?
Karen McDougall.
Thank you. Yeah, the Playboy model. I call her the Playboy model because it dehumanizes her more, which I know is very popular in the woke culture. No, I just couldn't think of her name, but she speaks lovingly about Donald Trump. You may be aware of this already, but anyway, having seen it and sharing some thoughts with Kim, we thought it'd be fun to share little clips with you, and we can all share our thoughts together. Anyway, we'll do that a little bit later. I think the big news today, super sticker from Lulu right out of the chute. Are you kidding me?
The Washington radical left, crazy Democrat.
Well, there's a Washington radical left, crazy Democrat who's supporting our show.
There's never been anything like this.
Lulu, love you. And good morning in Oklahoma, Mike Garcia. Right on. Thank you, Lulu. That's really cool.
Thank you.
All right, listen, I don't want to get too distracted, though. Shout out to Maui. In the 11 o'clock hour, at 11 o'clock, just after Kim's news, the great legal ninja, David Katz, joins us, everybody. And you will hear from David a couple of things. First, he will reiterate for those who might have missed in the past David's view of the Trump case, both this first case and the likely pending cases. I'm talking about Georgia. I'm talking about J6. I'm talking about the document case. He'll speak about all of those. Viability, likely outcomes, all of that. Timelines. But the other thing he'll talk about, I'm getting distracted. Top of the morning, Mimi. The other thing he'll speak of, David Katz, hang on a second. I've just had a mental glitch. Apologies.
Well, I'll tell you what I want to hear from David Katz.
Okay.
This whole 34 charges thing in New York.
Oh, yeah.
The 34 felonies. The reason they're felonies is because the documentation is alleged to have been created to cover up a larger crime.
Right.
The crime of tampering with an election, right? Mm-hmm. And so people are saying that's risky. That might not be, you might not be able to prove that there was some type of other crime that people would have cared one way or the other, whether there was a one night stand with a porn star or a long-term affair with a Playboy playmate. Because clearly the grab them by the pee came out that tape from Entertainment Tonight or
at
whatever.
the same time, right? Around the same time.
And no one cared about that.
Right.
So can you say then that it would have affected the election, and therefore can you say it was a cover-up of a crime?
Right. That's interesting. Well, you can. I hope you, and I know you will, ask him about that. And we can get into what I was thinking of also was the Wisconsin case.
Right.
What's happening in Wisconsin is, and we told you yesterday, and we've been talking about the last couple of days, even before the actual election, I was saying this is the most consequential election probably on the map right now, what's going on in Wisconsin for the Wisconsin Supreme Court. Democrat won that Supreme Court seat. And now with a supermajority in Wisconsin, it's possible to overturn or impeach that candidate. So overturn the people's voice and just remove by impeachment the newly elected Supreme Court justice there.
That's crazy. Then what's the point of having a public vote?
What's the viability of it? We'll get into that with David Katz. Why don't you
just appoint whoever you want then?
Yeah. No, exactly.
I mean,
and these states, and there are more of them with supermajorities in the GOP, they're kind of having their way with things. So
the hell with democracy.
I know it. It is Championship Thursday, everybody. On the Mark Thompson Show, it is a Championship Thursday. Here is what happened in the March Madness voting. Seriously, what the F?
Seriously, what the f?
Yeah. The Cinderella run that Seriously What the F had ends. That's right.
What?
It ended. I mean, Seriously What the F came into this tournament as a real underdog, and it made it all the way to the Final Four. But the run ended. Lost to... Where are my weed smokers at?
Where are my weed smokers at?
Where are my weed smokers at? Took out Seriously What the F. And then the upset also of Why Are You Yelling?
Why are you yelling?
Why Are You Yelling lost? That's right.
What?
Why Are You Yelling lost to...
Good day, sir.
That's right. So to review, the Cinderella run of Seriously What the F ends. And Where My Weed Smokers At moves on. And Why Are You Yelling? The deep run into the Final Four of Why Are You Yelling? That ends at the hands of Good Day, Sir. So what does that mean? It means we're lining up for a championship round right now.
I can't believe it. Mark's Madness.
So you vote now, everybody. You'll vote in the community section of our YouTube channel, or you'll vote, I believe there's a poll up right now in the chat.
Yes, there is.
All right. Thank you, Kim, for that. You'll vote either for...
Where are my weed smokers at?
Or you'll vote for...
Good day, sir.
Oh, these are the OGs. Where are my weed smokers or Good Day, Sir? Good luck. You've got till midnight tonight. I am unable to handicap this. I don't know who would be my favorite. I mean, as I say, they are both, I would call them classics. The commissioner of Mark's Madness is Albert. Albert, as you know, this is a side hustle job. We're barely making payroll. We have no benefits for people.
No benefits? What?
It takes dedication.
You're not donating to my 401k?
What?
I am out of here. That is it.
And this is their new hoax.
Yeah, I will tell you that we try to take care of everybody, but Where My Weed Smokers versus Good Day, Sir is the championship contest that goes down today and until midnight tonight. So tomorrow, on Friday, in addition to all the great offerings that we normally have on a Friday, like Friday Fabulous Florida, like Jim Avila and Michael Shore, like Michael Snyder, the Culture Blaster, in addition to all of those, we'll announce the winner of Mark's Madness. Not only which one of those drops wins, but also of all the bracketologists, everybody who entered. They're a handful at the top. And Where My Weed Smokers versus Good Day, Sir is going to determine who stays at the top and ultimately is crowned champion of Mark's Madness. Now, I will tell you that at the very top right now of the leaderboard is Daniel Martin, followed by Sayo Jones in a tie with Janet R. JR is right behind in third place. Then in fourth place, there is a tie with Sergio and Travis. Fifth is Jennifer. And I believe the top 5 spots do receive, help me, Kim, did they all get Tenuta Vineyard wine, or what happens with them? I thought I think
it depends on how many people tie for the win.
I see. Okay.
I don't know how much wine I can be sending out, but we'll see.
Oh, I see.
And this is their new hoax.
Oh,
Maybe
okay. You're trying, yeah.
This
All
might
right.
be a great opportunity, though, to say
Yeah.
that I am very excited to welcome Tenuta Vineyards as the second sponsor of the show. So they'll be sponsoring a few newscasts coming up.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
We love Tenuta Vineyard.
I know.
Right there in Livermore.
Why Are You Yelling Red is superb.
Yes, we do have a Why Are You Yelling Red, which has been named, I believe, one of the great blends in the history of vintnership and winemaking.
Why are you yelling?
Yeah. So when I say it's been named that, I believe I was the one who named it that.
Did you?
But
Yeah.
still, I think you should take with you the sense that everybody has, which is that it's an extraordinary pour, as
my
we say in the
neighbor
wine
Roger
business.
invited me over. I brought some he wanted to know all about what happened with the demise of Station X.
Oh, yeah.
We cracked open the Why Are You Yelling Red. He said it was the best wine he'd ever had in his whole life.
Well, there you go then.
I'm just saying.
Well, there you go. And then we have a Pinot, I believe, a white wine. Is it Pinot Grigio?
Pinot Grigio, okay.
And it's the, which one of you is Mark Thompson Pinot Grigio?
Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson?
Yeah, so you'll like that as well. So that's all from Tenuta Vineyard, and it's great that they're joining the show. I really do appreciate that. So I've got a lot of news to do, Kim, so if the preliminaries are done, we have no Tony.
Thanks, Tony.
We have no Albert.
Albert, thank you.
It's
Well,
just
when you
Kim.
say that, it's like you're asking
Kim, how
for
are
a
you?
technical problem. Don't even.
We are sort of flying solo
Yeah.
here. It's just pilot and co-pilot. So
Listen,
let's get
I
into it.
got
The Mark Thompson Show.
What is it, Kim?
I got the
What is
poll up on YouTube. It's rolling. Things
Yeah.
are okay.
Yeah. I mean, a little early to take a victory lap, but I definitely think that for the moment, things are okay. RFK Jr. You know RFK Jr.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
He's an environmental lawyer, anti-vaccine activist. He's filed paperwork with the FEC, the Federal Election Commission. He's going to run for president in 2024 as a Democrat.
God,
It just
why
happened
does he
this
have
news
to be an
yesterday.
anti-vaxxer? Why can't he just be a normal Kennedy?
Well, I mean, I have to say, there are people probably watching right now who go, hey, you know what? Anti-vaxxer is the right way to be, So I hear you. I'm fully vaxxed. I'm vaxxed up. I'm ready for more vaxes. You want to vax me during the show? Vax me again. I'm a jacked, vaxxed guy. But RFK Jr. is not. And he wrote a compelling book, a part of which I read, making the case against the vaccine, et cetera. But that's not his whole world. But it's certainly, as Kim has suggested in her comments, the thing that he's most known for recently. There he is. He'll officially announce his campaign on April 19th in Boston, but late yesterday, the word came out that he has filed the paperwork. He's 69 years old, the son of the former New York senator and presidential candidate in 1968. You remember Robert F. Kennedy. He's the nephew of John F. Kennedy, the president. He's a longtime vaccine skeptic. It's not just this vaccine. So he's not new to this party. The whole controversy about vaccines and autism, he's very much at the center of all of that. So anyway, that's the latest news in politics on the Democratic side. Meantime, in Benicia, the refinery in Benicia released a bunch of chemicals, as you know. And now in a settlement with the EPA, they will pay a fine. It's the Valero refinery in Benicia.
Okay.
They've agreed to a $1.2 million settlement with the EPA over
That's
violations. It? Thank you, because that's exactly how I feel. They have that on them. Oh, 1.2. My gosh, I think I've got that right here. This is their settlement over violations of the Federal Clean Air Act involving a series of chemical releases.
They laugh at that fine. They're like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, exactly. This is part of the calculus of running one of these refinery plants. We talked about this just the other day. Literally, I think it was Monday. I told you about the other chemical release and how residents felt that they weren't warned in time. Anyway, the EPA said, quote, following significant chemical incidents at the refinery in 2017 and 2019, an inspection at the refinery identified areas of non-compliance with hazardous materials management, including failing to immediately report releases, not updating safety procedures, and not adequately analyzing hazards. In addition to the monetary fine, Valero has agreed to make significant chemical safety improvements at the refinery, some of which have already been made. The firm is going to continue to implement safety improvements through June of 2025, according to the EPA.
That's very frustrating, especially, not only for the people that live in the community of Benicia, who have to deal with every time they walk out of their house, they don't know what they're breathing. But that's the only place they could afford to live in the Bay Area. But what about the rest of the Bay Area? This stuff doesn't just stick to one spot. It's incredibly frustrating. 1.2 million, Valero probably makes that in 10 minutes, in one day, in 10 minutes.
Kim
That's
is
not going to hurt
right.
them.
And the idea that there could be a statement issued by the EPA along these lines, let me just read you a couple of lines. This settlement sends a clear message that EPA will prosecute companies that fail to expend the resources needed to have a compliant, well-functioning risk management plan to the fullest extent of the law. I mean, see Kim's point. No, it doesn't. This kind of fine and these fines need to be updated for 2023. This fine is absurdly low. I told you the other day, again, it might have been Monday, I think. Monday or Tuesday, when I told you about what's happening with the residents of Benicia who felt that they weren't told in time of this. There wasn't a timely warning. Literally a month after these chemicals were released, they say, hey, by the way, may want to check, don't eat the vegetables and don't drink the water. It's shameful, but it's the ownership that corporate America has over life in this country. So 1.2 million for the fine.
1.2 million for the health of the residents of Benicia.
Yeah,
good job, everybody.
Yeah.
The Mark Thompson Show.
A YouTuber is shot during a prank video. This is his thing. Tanner Cook records his pranks for his YouTube channel. And he went in to this, I believe it was a mall, as I recall. The incident occurred at the Dulles Town Center Mall, in Sterling, Virginia. It's right outside of Washington, D.C., not far from where I grew up. He's 21 years old. He posts content in which he and his friends play pranks on people. He tried pulling one on Alan Coley, who's 31. But Coley didn't know it was a prank and shot him. He was charged, Coley was, with aggravated malicious wounding, using a firearm to commit a felony, and discharging a firearm in a building. Videos of his arrest circulated on social media. I was playing a prank and it's a simple, practical joke, and this guy didn't take it very well, Cook told media. Coley's bond hearing scheduled for yesterday. I don't know what the bond was set at, but this is not the first time a prank video has resulted in violence. A couple of years ago, literally 2021, Timothy Wilkes was shot and killed after trying to play a prank on a group of people by approaching them with butcher knives. The guy who shot Wilkes in the butcher knife prank said, hey, I didn't know I was being pranked. I opened fire in self-defense. So the YouTuber is expected to survive, but he does have a wound in his abdomen. His abdomen. There he is. Got a picture of him there in better times. Pre-prank.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah. So there was a major story that I want to get into. I don't know if I have time to do it right now.
You know what I want to make sure that we get to today? You sent me this picture.
This is it's a montage, really, of the Enquirer covers, is what you're seeing on YouTube now, if you're listening on the podcast, just to tell you. And these are the Enquirer covers leading up to the election in 2016. And it's all anti-Hillary.
Look at that. It's
corrupt,
like you didn't even realize, you know?
Hillary going to jail. Sex scandal cover-up with Hillary's face and all of it. Full medical
Hillary
file.
has 6 months to live.
Hillary hitman tells all. So you saw, because now this David Pecker is so much a part of the ongoing Trump case, particularly in relation to Karen McDougall, the catch and kill part of that case, that you realize, oh, he was doing the handiwork for Donald Trump and the political heavy lifting, at least from the standpoint of media, already, minus the catch and kill. So,
on one hand, you think, who even reads the National Enquirer? I mean, whatever, right?
Well, at one time, it was the most read newspaper in America.
Oh my God, that's sad.
Yeah,
But then
there's a
you
lot of
think-
stuff that's sad about America.
Guns. But even if you don't read it, you have to think that every time anyone walked through a grocery store check stand, that's what they were standing and looking at as they waited in line.
Oh, that's a great point. That you just get an impression, even if you don't
Yeah.
actually read it. Yeah, that's
That's right.
really, really good point. Well, and that's why I sent it to you. I just thought it was interesting that your favorite guy, Pecker,
Why?
was already doing
wild.
the work. Yeah,
I
it
just
is
like
pretty
his
wild.
name. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know you're a fan of the name. Can I do it? All right, let me do some law and disorder.
In the criminal justice system, the people,
Pimps, addicts, thieves, bums, winos, girls who can't keep an address, and men who don't care.
are represented by two separate yet equally important groups.
A cop, a flatfoot, a bull, a dick, John Law. You're the fuzz, the heat. You're poison, you're trouble, you're bad news.
These are their stories.
Well, there's a lot, and I'll get to a couple of big ones. First of all, the judge has ruled in the Dominion voting systems case that Dominion voting systems can force Rupert Murdoch and his son Lachlan to take the witness stand in court. That's in the defamation suit, of course. Well, Rupert has more time now to be in court since he's not romancing, what's her name again? Anne, the
Leslie?
Petaluma. Leslie Ann something. It matters because the ruling deals a major blow to Fox News, which had been trying to persuade the judge not to compel the older Murdoch, who serves as the chair of Fox News, to testify in person. In fact, you may remember this. The Fox lawyers were arguing that Murdoch, the older Murdoch, Rupert, was infirm, that he was ailing. And the judge said...
Not too infirm to get married, I guess.
He's getting married, and he's been at 4 different locations. The lawyers on the other side pointed to his travel, like just in the past week. And
Now
it
they'll
was
say,
to 4 different locations.
I'm sorry, he's going through a bad breakup. Can we? No.
So Murdoch did testify earlier this year in a closed-door deposition. That deposition, which was unsealed in February, didn't bode well for Fox News. Because during that closed-door deposition, he was asked whether it was fair to say that he seriously doubted any claim of massive election fraud. And Murdoch said, oh, yes. He conceded that he doubted false narratives around election fraud from the beginning. So that's the latest in that case. The DOJ, I should say, reaches a settlement with families of Sutherland Springs in the mass shooting there. Now, I know the mass shootings run together. This was in 2017. There was a mass shooting at an Air Force base. I believe, was it at the Air Force base, or he was definitely in the Air Force? It wasn't it was at a church, I think, yeah?
Yeah, it was at a church.
Right. But he was with the Air Force, and because he was with the Air Force, and this is important, he was in the Air Force and had a history of domestic violence, and it was alleged that it should have been flagged, that background, in the system to prevent him from buying a weapon. But the Air Force never entered that information into the database. So families of the victims of this mass shooting, again, it took place in Sutherland Springs, Texas in 2017 in that church. It killed 25 people.
Yep.
And a pregnant woman. They sued. They sued the federal government for not putting that information in the system, and they won. The DOJ settled with them, and they settled for $144.5 million. Again, it pales in comparison to the loss, but it does speak to the tragedy and how there was one link in the chain that wasn't linked. There is a story in ProPublica that relates to Clarence Thomas and the highest court in the land. And so I just will give you the broad strokes on this, and then I will touch on it with David Katz, who's coming up in the 11 o'clock hour. Clarence Thomas is regularly romanced by a billionaire. And when I say romanced, I mean he and Ginny Thomas are island hopping on a super yacht regularly. It's like an annual trip they take. And they arrive on and are transported on private jets, both to this trip and others. The undisclosed gifts to Thomas, this is from ProPublica, which is a terrific thing you can contribute to. They do great investigative work. The undisclosed gifts to Thomas have no known precedent in the modern history of the Supreme Court. It's incomprehensible to me that someone would do this, said one former judge. If Thomas had chartered the plane that they rode on and the 162-foot yacht that he and his wife were on for the vacation, the total cost would have exceeded $500,000. $500,000.
Are there not rules against this?
Exactly. Aren't there? Fortunately for him, he didn't have to pay for it. This billionaire, Republican mega donor, Harlan Crow, who owned the jet and the yacht, he paid for it. There are way more details. I will post them on my Twitter feed. By the way, I haven't tweeted that we're on the air yet today. I always forget to do that. Somebody may be able to do it. But they note here, federal judges sit in a unique position of public trust. They have lifetime tenure, a privilege intended to insulate them from the pressures and potential corruption of politics. A code of conduct for federal judges below the Supreme Court requires them to avoid even, quote, the appearance of impropriety. Members of the High Court, Chief Justice John Roberts has written consultations for that code of conduct for the federal judges below. They've helped craft that ethics code that applies to judges below the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is left entirely without a code of ethics. As you know, it's been talked about that they should have a code of ethics, but there is not one. Crow met Thomas after he became a justice. They become friends, and Crow has given $500,000 to a Tea Party group founded by Ginny Thomas. He paid her a $120,000 salary. I'm talking about Ginny Thomas. We can't really know the full scale of Crow's benefactions because there's no way really to find out. The great reporting they did on ProPublica was following the trail of super yacht check-ins and private jet check-ins at various airports, talking to those who worked on these super yachts. It's really a great piece of journalism. But This guy, Crow, has spent millions on right-wing ideology and trying to get it into the law. And he says, I've never talked to Thomas. I've never, we don't talk about the law. They're big pals, though. And so this is a revelation that this Supreme Court justice is being lavished with these trips, with access to private jets. He's being ferried about. It's reprehensible, right? It's nauseating, but it is America in the new world of the Supreme Court. That's Law and Disorder for today.
Tune in again next time for more Law and Disorder on The Mark Thompson Show.
All right, that's it. Let's roll. Hey, let's be careful out there.
I do recommend that piece, and I'll put it up on my Twitter feed at Mark T Live if you're looking for it, from ProPublica on Clarence Thomas. We're in the middle of the finals in Mark's Madness. I'll remind you.
I can't believe it! Mark's Madness.
Yeah, it's a pretty good one. The two OGs, as I say, they go up against each other. You vote for either...
Where are my weed smokers at?
Yeah, or you vote for...
Good day, sir.
Again, either...
Where are my weed smokers at?
Or...
Good day, sir.
You'll vote in the community section of our YouTube channel. There's also a live poll now in the chat. And you can vote until midnight tonight. We'll have the results tomorrow. Good luck. Kim's News and Jay Graham on Tech Thursday.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister, and we will start with this unfortunate news out of the Midwest, because the United States is seeing one of the busiest starts to tornado season on record. There have been 478 tornado reports this year across 25 states. And according to the National Weather Service, only 2017 and 2008 had more at this point in the year. Adult film actress Stormy Daniels, there she is, says she looks forward to testifying against former President Trump. In an interview with Piers Morgan Uncensored, Daniels said she would be absolutely able to testify if his criminal case in New York does end up going to trial. Trump, on Tuesday, pleaded not guilty to 34 felony charges related to hush money payments made to Daniels during the 2016 presidential campaign to cover up their alleged affair. Americans are growing more concerned about drugs, drug use, and affordable health care. A new survey shows the number of Americans who worry a great deal about drugs is up 8% since last year, now 46%. The number of respondents concerned about the affordability and availability of health care is up 5% to 54%. There's protests still going on in Paris. This is what it looks like. They're protesting over the French government pension reforms. Videos posted on social media show protesters entering the wealth management company BlackRock's office with red flares and smoke bombs. According to a French union spokesperson, French demonstrators have been protesting the government's attempt to raise the retirement age from 62 to 64. The heroin dealer who sold a fatal dose to actor Michael K. Williams has pleaded, that's Michael K. Williams, has pleaded guilty now to a narcotics conspiracy charge in federal court on Wednesday. Irvin Cartagena faces a minimum of 24 years in prison. Williams was best known for his portrayal of Omar Little on HBO's series The Wire. Here's an interesting one for you, because it looks like we might have to start paying more even if we would not like to go to Hawaii. I'm stalling to see if I can get you a picture of Oahu up on the screen. Yeah. I can do it. I know I can do it. Here it is.
That's all right. I mean, we can look at the dead actor for a minute.
No, we're going to Hawaii. I'm sorry. We're off to the islands.
All right.
But we're paying more. It's called an annual tourist fee. Hawaiian lawmakers might soon pass this annual tourist fee. The legislation would require a license for people who would like to use state-owned parks, beaches, forests, or hiking trails. The bill's other supporters think the millions of tourists who visit the islands each year should help pay to maintain the ecosystem.
Well, if it's going to that, all the better. How much is it going to be?
They didn't say how much.
No.
But the problem is that a lot of people go there, they ignore signs that say the trails are closed because they've been trampled to death and they need to be groomed or maintained, and there's not enough money to do it. So you have trails being ruined and natural parks being ruined. And so maybe this is the way to make sure that doesn't happen.
No, I don't dispute that in the least. In fact, you're told not to take things from various natural areas, and still people do. They take souvenirs. So,
but
we really have trouble.
Fee.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that
is that offensive to you?
No, it's not. I mean, if it's being used to protect the environment, then I'm good. I'm good with it. I really am. If it's being perverted in some way, twisted in some way, so it doesn't end up doing anything for the environment, then it's just one more tax. But if it's actually being directed that way, then I think it makes sense.
Well, you have all of these places, like Italy was one of them, where they're saying, don't come because all the tourists are ruining the environment. They're ruining Venice. So there are now places like Tahoe even asking people not to go because so many people are going there that the natural beauty is being destroyed. So it's not just in Hawaii. Maybe if they pass a tourist fee, we'll start seeing them pop up everywhere.
Yeah, could be. I mean,
one never knows.
But being pointed out, parks have fees. John Watts was right. There are fees to get into national parks. So,
you know what else has a fee? No, we don't have a fee, but we are crowdfunded here on the Mark Thompson Show. Maybe we should institute a fee. We thank those of you already in the Mark Thompson Show community for being here, for hanging out with us through the show. You can find our Patreon and our PayPal link if you'd like to financially support the show at themarkthompsonshow.com. And of course, the super chat here on YouTube is live. Patreon is especially helpful as well. So thank you for everyone who's contributing there. And again, themarkthompsonshow.com. I'm Kim McAllister on It Is The Mark Thompson Show.
They had to close down an entire radio station to silence him. And now he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Thompson.
Just as well as I do.
Who's Mark Thompson?
Everything is going extremely well. I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
I apologize to every preacher and pastor.
Going here is a situation.
We have processes and protocols and standards.
No.
60% of the time, it works every time.
What up, everybody? Please welcome him in on Thursdays. He's just back from Asia. How cool. Can't wait to hear about it. From the great Jefferson Graham, everyone. Come on, Jefferson Graham, you big stud. Nice to see you. Look at you. Gosh, you're something special. What happened to him? There he is.
What happened to me? I thought I was right here. Am I not?
Yeah. You are so with us, and we're so glad you're here. All right. Now tell me, Jefferson Graham, first about Japan. I saw some of your posts from there. Really was excited to see some of that stuff. You blended landscape with tips on how to photograph the landscapes. Tell me about Japan.
Japan was great. I spent 10 days there. The best day was the day that it rained, photographically, because when it rains, the colors splash all over the ground, and they look incredible. And so the first actually full video from Japan we'll post this Saturday, youtube.com/PhotoWalksTV. Japan's Chinatown. There were 3 of them. And I went to the second biggest Chinatown in Kobe, which is near Osaka. And it is wild. It is colorful. It is very red. And I think people will get a kick out of it.
Now, how did you pick your itinerary? How did you establish your itinerary before you went? Like you said, I went to the second biggest Chinatown. I went to this place, that place. Not being from that area, how were you able to put that together?
Very simple. I know somebody who lives there, as in my son.
I see. Okay.
So he lives near there. So we went to visit him. And I will just say, for travelers that do the old, I'm going here for 2 days and here for 2 days and here for 2 days, I don't do that anymore. I go and I stay in one place, because it is a pain to be just going all over the place all the time. You don't see anything when you're doing that, but you really get to know an area if you stay there. There's plenty to do in what is called the Kansai region. I also went to Osaka, which is the second largest city in Japan, and I met up with a writer from Osaka.com who accompanied me on a video, and we went to Hidden Osaka together, and it's a lot of fun.
Wow.
And so that'll post the following week.
So Hidden Osaka is the red light district, or what is that, Jefferson?
The love hotels. The love hotels. That is what they call them there. And you could do hourly. You can check in without seeing anybody. You just put money through a slot.
Wow, that's a new way of doing business.
Yeah.
What is the most challenging part? Well, I know you're doing something else, I think, which I so respect and aspire to, and that is you don't go encumbered by a lot of stuff. You like to kind of downsize when you go, even on these big trips like Japan, right?
Yeah, I took a handful of small mobile cameras, 2 iPhones, a GoPro, which I didn't end up using, and an Insta360, which is the wild, crazy camera. But I also brought a Galaxy. So it's 5 cameras altogether, but I really only used 2 of them. And I did use the Galaxy some more because, everybody knows I'm an iPhone shooter, but there's always a question, well, how do I do this on a Galaxy? So I went and bought a Galaxy so I would know, and had a good time with it. It's a pretty good camera.
You're nothing if not true to your audience and responsive to their questions, which I love. We bring you in on Thursdays. First of all, we'll mention, and you'll mention again, where everybody can see there's a whole bunch of new content that you got from Japan. I've seen it dribble out on your YouTube channel, and and we'll remind everybody where they can see it again toward the weekend. But yes, what I wanted to ask you about is other tech stuff that's going on. One of the things that's going on involves these driverless cabs that you're finding overseas, and they're coming to both Los Angeles, San Francisco, maybe some other cities in America as well. But I wonder if you could weigh in on that and give us an update.
Okay, well, the world's first driverless bus is launching in Scotland in the Edinburgh area on May 15th. They're saying that they have the capacity for 10,000 passengers a week, which would make that the biggest test yet. I personally would not feel really good about riding in a driverless bus. I've read too many stories about buses that crash and do things, and I'm a little wary of it. But they are saying that there will be a person in there to monitor the driverless bus, and there will be a person in there to take your money. So it's not much of a test. In San Francisco, Waymo and Cruise is owned by General Motors, and Waymo is owned by Google, have been doing various tests. Cruise runs in the middle of the night when there's not as many cars, and Waymo is testing on a you sign up and you have to get an app and do all sorts of stuff. I just watched a fascinating Associated Press video where two reporters took a ride in one of the taxis, one of the Waymo taxis, and they had this great shot of the Waymo taxi coming to a total stop on a busy street when it thought that the door was open when it wasn't, and all these cars behind it honking. Could you imagine being on a street where you're stuck and there's a big line in front of you and you're honking and it's a driverless car?
Yeah, there's nothing you can do. And when you're in the car, in the same way you're limited in Uber and Lyft in reaching anybody and actually reaching a person, I think maybe they've modified that slightly, but it's really hard to reach anybody at any one of those companies to kind of tell them, hey, I'm trapped in one of your cars, on Filbert Street, and there's a bunch of traffic behind us, and we're just stopped here in the middle of the street. They have to figure out a way to interface more effectively with the passengers in those driverless cars.
That would be nice. So in San Francisco, they're trying to get approval to go full-scale money all the way as of the beginning of next year. And I think it's a stretch. I don't think it's going to happen yet. They're also testing in Phoenix and in Austin. In the year 2025, there's going to be some stuff going on in Norway and Germany and Switzerland. It's going to be a long slog. That's what I think. Don't you?
Yeah, I think so too. And I think the reluctance that you speak about when you speak of the driverless buses, I think there's some of that in the city. I mean, we see them in San Francisco. You see these taxis, and there's any number of incidents. They're working out the bugs, but it seems like there are a lot of bugs to work out. And in that spirit, I want to point you towards something else you've talked about on this show for a while, and that's this Chat GPT. You did a lot of fun stuff with it, asking about yourself, asking about me, asking, sort of just asking about things that we knew something about, and so we could identify inaccuracies or whatever. But you had passed along something to me earlier in the week about that the fact that it's being banned in a couple of countries. This is interesting to me. Why would that be?
I think they're scared of the technology. It's Italy that's banning it, and in Canada, they're going to be investigating. It's all happening really fast, probably faster than anything either of us or any of the viewers and listeners can remember. The iPhone changed our life in 2007, but it took a while to really kick in, probably about 5 years. And this thing is just happening so quickly. One of the headlines I read this morning was that we're all going to go to a 4-day work week because ChatGPT will handle the overflow. And, who knows where it's going. As far as the inaccuracies, one fun one I read this week was that I had come out with several albums, and I'm a singer-songwriter, and one of my songs was, there's a new iPhone being introduced next week. Da-da-da-da.
There's never been anything like this.
I'd love to hear that song. Hey, we had a listener. Yeah. We had a listener write a song off of a drop that we use all the time.
Y'all can all go to hell, and I'm going back to Texas.
That's the drop. And we had a listener write a really good song off of that.
Y'all can all go to hell, and I'm going back to Texas.
And I'll find it for you for your next visit. And you should maybe lay down a little track on the iPhone.
I'd be happy to, but as your loyal fans know, I don't sing, and that's for a reason, because for whatever reason, I can play, but I cannot do a melody. The words could come out, but they won't sound. They won't be in tune.
Well, what do you have to do then, Mr. Tech? You need to auto-tune it.
Auto-tune. Okay,
yeah.
We'll
just
give it a try
auto-tune
one day.
Yeah. And also, I wanted to mention a big thing you're doing. It's a 10-part series. Tell everybody about your 10-part series. It sounds really cool.
iPhone Photography 101. It's a series of short videos that tell you about all the hidden menus and things that you always want to do on the iPhone photographically that maybe you just didn't know how to do. And I think my inspiration was Kim when I was showing her the menu, the hidden menu on the iPhone, and she was like, "I've never seen this in my life." know she's been using the phone for a while. So I just started cutting these short videos. Right, Kim?
Yes, I know. You taught me a lot.
Yeah.
Ah.
So I did the menu and the modes, and like for instance, slow motion is easy. You press the button and you record, but there's actually 3 choices in there. There's slow motion or there's slow motion, and I showed the differences between the two, how to do a good portrait, how to do macro. And is 10 parts, but it's going to go beyond 10 parts. I welcome your input. I welcome your suggestions for other pieces I can do. Each video is about 2 to 3 minutes long, and I'm happy to do it because I get so many questions about this stuff that I'm happy to pass it on.
Let me put my credibility glasses on to see this comment. Liz L., I watched them. I had no idea there was so much to learn. Oh, wow. It's Also, this from John. I'm sure Graham can sing as well as Bob Dylan. Wow, Bob Dylan gets a swipe.
There is no instruction manual that comes with the iPhone. It doesn't tell you how to do anything, and you just sort of have to figure it out on your own. So,
why is that, Jeff? Is that just that's a thing now. Same thing with Tesla. There's no owner's manual of Tesla. You can go online and read about something, but it doesn't come with the car.
They think it's one of those things that just works and that is cumbersome. Maybe nobody reads it. And that may be true. I mean, but you cannot go to apple.com and find, okay, great, you just bought an iPhone. Here's what you need to know, and take you through every step. They will have various sections in the help section. If you Google your query, you might find the answer to it.
Yeah. I will say query is a ding word. Jeff, we love you. Did you want to do a theme for us today? You don't have to. I don't want you to feel always obligated to do that. Okay.
I've got some.
All right, so just for those who are new, Jefferson Graham on Tech Thursdays. He is a singer-songwriter in addition to being a photographer and also tech guy, longtime writer at USA Today for decades on technology. And he joins us here, and at the end of his segment, typically, he favors us with TV themes, all right? Some of them are from long ago, some of them are recent. So let's, and go ahead and you can put your guess in the chat. Go ahead.
Yeah.
It's The Odd Couple, right?
You're supposed to let the listeners.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. I might be wrong.
No, you're right.
Okay.
Okay.
I love that theme, by the way. There's certain TV themes you go. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry. Love this.
Anybody?
It's Petticoat Junction, I think, right? And somebody did get it. There it is. John Smith got it.
Okay.
There's a little and the at the junction.
Oh, I am out of tune. 1 second.
I got that, though.
That was Hill Street Blues, right?
Yeah, that's a great theme, right?
I'll be live at 2:00 Pacific time.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Jeff does this thing now where he goes live with his tech pals and photography pals.
Yes.
Over on.
We'll be talking about Japan and Morocco. Rick Salmon, who's a friend of mine, another photographer, he just went to Morocco with just his iPhone. So we will be comparing notes and showing photos and taking your questions.
I love it. So you can find that where, Jeff?
YouTube.com/PhotoWalksTV.
Yeah, we have it up there on the screen, but I just wanted people to hear it. Also, I will tell you that Morocco is one of the great trips you can ever take. I've been there, and I can't wait to go back. It's one of those places, just like Jeff, where he goes back to Japan all the time. He's got relatives there. He's got his son there. But find any excuse to go to Morocco and go back. Love that you visit with us. Thank you, the great Jefferson Graham. Check him out live today at 2:00, and you can see him here on Thursdays as well. And I will mention this, is invaluable to us in getting this whole YouTube venture launched. And every time we hit a challenge on YouTube, he's been more than the Sherpa to take us through it. So really appreciate that too, my friend. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to get some new guitar strings for next time.
Jefferson Graham, everybody. Right on, right on.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Well, Kim, our time is short, but I wonder if you could look into the live voting that's going on right now to give us some sense, because
now,
this is
Mark's Madness.
This is the championship showdown. Two OGs are going at it right now in Mark's Madness. If you're just joining us, it's
Where are my weed smokers at?
Versus
Good day, sir.
You vote for either
Where are my weed smokers at? Good day, sir.
Or Good Day, Sir. Right. So it's one or the other. You'll vote until midnight tonight in the community section, but right now live in the chat on YouTube. Go ahead, Kim. Tell me where the voting stands, if you would, please.
This is where it is right now. We've got Where My Weed Smokers at 45% of the vote. Good Day, Sir at 55%.
Oh, so Good Day, Sir is pulling
Good
well
Day,
ahead.
Sir
10%
is
typically
ahead
is
by 10%.
Typically a pretty determinative lead in live voting. I've noticed, I'm trying to figure out whether the live voting is, indicative of what you're going to find later. And I find that if something's ahead by like 10%, can sometimes really predict the outcome. So we'll see. So Good Day, Sir, 10 points ahead of Where My Weed Smokers. But
now, do we leave this poll open until the show ends and then people go to the community?
Correct.
Okay.
So the live voting on YouTube, if you're watching live, will continue during the live show until noon Pacific time, 3 o'clock for those of you on the East Coast. And by the way, speaking of you're right, Jim Shields has pointed something out. Determinative is a ding word. Thank you, Jim.
John wonders if this isn't the case because all the weed smokers are passed out. Lulu says, weed smokers, wake up.
Yeah.
Stay at home and get baked.
Yeah. The commissioner of Mark's Madness is a guy who this is his side hustle, Kim.
I know.
But he's spending a second at his main hustle to spend time with us right now. The commissioner of Mark's Madness, Albert, everybody. How about it? Albert, welcome.
I'm not sure how I sound right now.
You sound
There could be
okay.
a lot of background noise.
What is happening now, Albert, is that we have Where My Weed Smokers playing off against Good Day, Sir, and apparently Kim has just told me that Good Day, Sir is ahead by about 10 points.
Oh my gosh. That's actually really surprising. I think I have Weed Smokers as the overall #1 seed, and number 7 seed is Good Day, Sir. So maybe I just got the seedings wrong. I got to go talk to the commission because a lot of upsets. We had a 21 seed make it to the Final Four, which is a great story on paper, but we might have to do a reviewing process here with my people.
Yeah, Albert's talking about the seriously what the F did make it to the Final Four.
I think that eliminated my that ruined my bracket. It eliminated 2 of my picks that were going to go far. So
there's a very strong bit of competition at the top of the leaderboard, with Daniel Martin leading things. Sayo Jones a close second, but she really dropped down. It was really, I think they were virtually tied. Now Sayo and Janet are tied for second, with Daniel cleanly in first. I don't want to say who's predicted what, but I think it's going to be very hard to catch Daniel.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard to catch Daniel, and it's gonna be a huge shakeup in the 4 to 5, 6th place spots. There's like a log jam there, so we have to figure out what we're gonna do there.
Okay. Okay. Now, Commish, will you make a statement to the public tomorrow? Because
we are crowning the champion. So
yeah, exactly.
I will be here with my avatar, looking really cute, and I'll try to make an official statement to commemorate our grand finale.
Yeah, it'd really be great. All right, the commissioner of Marks Madness is Albert. He will make an official statement to us tomorrow. We will coordinate
Sorry
that.
about the voting yesterday, everyone. It was a great time to put whoever's producing the thing has no idea what he's doing.
The voting was delayed by a half hour. Yeah, so that's right. Producer,
whoever is producing this thing has no idea what they're doing.
No one was happier to see that go down to defeat than Albert. I look forward to hearing about, as I say, Daniel looks like he's pulling away in first place, but there's a lot of competition for those top 5 spots in 2 through 5. So we'll talk tomorrow. Thanks, Albert.
Yep, talk tomorrow.
All right, Albert, everybody. Yeah. Wow, very, very good.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I have David Katz, who I have to bring on here in a few minutes. And we have a lot of looming legal questions, both in the world of Trump. I also want to touch on the situation in Wisconsin, where a Democrat in an overwhelmingly Republican-ruled state has won the Supreme Court seat. But there's already talk about that supermajority in Wisconsin impeaching and removing that newly elected Supreme Court justice. We'll talk to him about the viability of that. So Kim's News and David Katz next. Smash the like button like a
with your
boss.
iron rod.
Smash it. Give me a thumbs up. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister, and let's start with a story that Mark had mentioned earlier, but we're going to go ahead and do it again because couldn't be more important. There is a new report that claims Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas accepted luxury gifts from a Republican donor for decades without disclosing any of them. The report from ProPublica details luxury travel around the globe and outings on yachts and private jets owned by businessman Harlan Crow. ProPublica claims the hospitality was not disclosed on Thomas's public financial filings with the Supreme Court. Crow, in a statement, did not deny the allegations that Thomas accepted these trips, but said the Supreme Court justice never asked for the gifts.
And by the way,
I don't know if that's a distinction.
Yeah, I mean, it's they're looking for any high ground in all of it. But I will say that if you want to read the article, it's on my Twitter feed at Mark T Live. But I also would say that in addition to the Thomas trips on the super yachts and the private jets, he also employed Ginny Thomas. He donated to her right-wing efforts in her coalition to push a right-wing theocracy. So this guy is way more than a guy who footed the tab for a bunch of trips for the Thomases. If you really look into it, it's a poison at the Supreme Court level, and it's right there on screen. Clarence Thomas.
He never asked for that. He never asked for any of it. No, never asked for it. Don't you have to take an ethics class in law school?
Oh, yeah, but I mean, please, a lawyer, oh my God, an unethical lawyer?
Don't say that. We have Katz coming on. Come on.
Well, I mean, my father's a lawyer. I'm from a family of lawyers, but they're sadly not the rich kind, but they're, I think there are a lot of great lawyers, and I think you need lawyers. You know, it's all that, send lawyers, guns, and money. You know what I mean? It's I mean, lawyers fight for freedom, and lawyers do a lot of great things, but I think Clarence Thomas is corrupt. I think his wife is corrupt, and I think there's the history is replete with evidence of it, and now we're hearing more and more of it.
Well, and you expect someone at this level to have a higher level of ethics, and you just expect more from a Supreme Court justice.
Well, they lie to get to that level to begin with. I mean, the original sin of getting to the Supreme Court is the lying that goes on during the confirmation process.
It's a pretty nice watch, too. I wonder if that was also a gift. Just thinking out loud. Okay, let's move on to the ATF, the White House, calling out the House Republicans now over their push to cut funding for the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. Deputy Press Secretary Andrew Bates argued defunding the ATF would undercut efforts to fight drug cartels that traffic fentanyl into the country. President Biden's budget proposal calls for an increase in ATF funding, while Republicans are looking to slash spending and eyeing the ATF as a source for potential cuts. Conservatives like Representatives Matt Gaetz of Florida and Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia have sponsored legislation to abolish the ATF altogether. ATF on the chopping block, it looks like.
Everybody loves the ATF until they come for something that you want, you know.
You know what? When there's a bomb or a whatever in the neighborhood, explosives, bring out the ATF, right? We need those guys. Here they are. Senator Lindsey Graham believes the indictment of former President Trump will only help him in his bid to return to the White House. The South Carolina Republican spoke about the New York Manhattan District Attorney's actions against the former president during a press conference at the Republican Party headquarters yesterday. He said, "The road to the White House runs through the South Carolina, and the actions of the Manhattan DA made that road a lot wider for President Trump."
I think I'm the most honest human being, perhaps, that God ever created.
Yeah.
The senator also read a statement from South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster that said, quote, "I've never seen such outrageous conduct as that of this prosecutor," end quote.
Yeah. No one feigns outrage and surprise like Lindsey Graham and his pals. You know?
I just want to find 11,780.
Yeah, there you go.
Uh-huh. Yeah, never seen.
We're all looking for 11,780, Mr. President. It's just we really are. We're all there. We want the subscribers, and you want the vote.
I only need 11,000.
Yeah. Okay.
God. I mean, handcuff city.
Right.
3 Democrats, you see them here, they are facing an expulsion vote from the Tennessee House, and they say other lawmakers accused of wrongdoing did not face any consequences. Representative Gloria Johnson, pictured here at the right, said there have been admitted child molesters in the legislature, along with someone that illegally prescribed opioids to family members, but they were still all allowed to serve. The 3 seen here disrupted the state house floor in Nashville last week during a gun protest. The vote to expel the 3 will happen today with a 2/3 majority needed for approval.
And the shorthand on this essentially is that they want some kind of restriction on guns and gun ownership and background checks and the like. I mean, red flag laws. These are activists to try to balance the kinds of freedoms and responsibilities that come with gun ownership in Tennessee. What Tennessee is doing is they want a loosening of all of that. They want a removal of many of those things. They reject the red flag laws and this kind of thing, and they have a supermajority, so they can literally just wash away these, I guess not literally wash away because they'd have to get water and wash for it to be literally. But I mean, they can literally remove these people because they have the supermajority. And so they've removed the opposition. It's what's happening. And I want to talk to Katz about what's happening in that regard in Wisconsin with the Supreme Court Justice, how the supermajority can just have their way with it. It completely undermines the voice of the people.
It does. And you know what they're accused of doing is their state legislators in Tennessee, and when the protesters came, they stood up with the protesters.
Right. They protested in the chamber. Right.
And so that's why you want to remove them?
Yeah. And as they say, that doesn't even weigh in as a violation when you stack it up against other things that have gone on in that legislature in Tennessee.
Okay, so there's apparently a lot of ebb and flow in California's population. Census data between July of 2021 and 2022 shows some counties grew, others shrunk, some reversed their previous trends. In that chunk of time, though, California lost about 1% of its families. Counties like Los Angeles and San Francisco lost the most residents. Analysts say a lot of folks moved around in response to COVID protocols and things like prison closures, but the numbers also show the population is starting to look a lot more like pre-COVID in California. I was going to show you a picture of a mosquito, but I'd rather look at the picture of California while I tell you that we should start preparing now for a dangerous mosquito season. These pests need only a tiny bit of water to breed, and right now, California has a lot of it. While all the rain is good news for the drought, It raises health concerns since mosquitoes can spread diseases like West Nile. That virus killed 13 people statewide last year. It's caused 7,600 cases since 2003. Experts say this mosquito season will start once the warm weather settles in. And speaking of all the storms, there's another fallout from all these epic storms. All the rain that has soaked our state since December is making for a beautiful start to spring with grasses and flowers blooming, and also one of the worst allergy seasons ever. The warning from doctors say most of their patients are affected by pollen. The new government research suggests pollen season is starting 20 days earlier and will last 10 days longer than usual. So there you have it.
Yeah, they say that that's the trend worldwide because of the warming. Exactly.
And all the storms here in California, yeah. So this report is crowdfunded along with the Mark Thompson Show. Thank you to everyone in the Mark Thompson Show community. If you would like to financially support the show, find us at themarkthompsonshow.com. You've got the Patreon link, the PayPal link right there. And of course, the Super Chat on YouTube is live. I'm Kim McAllister on The Mark Thompson Show.
Right on, Kim. Love it.
They had to close down an entire radio station to silence him. And now, he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Thompson. The Mark Thompson Show.
It was great. I loved it.
How would you handle this? We could try ignoring it, sir.
Morning.
You cannot say you love your country.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Stay at home and get baked.
Yeah, what up, everybody? Hour 2, and it's one that I've been looking forward to for some time. We're in the middle of Mark's Madness, but I'm going to update that after we speak to this guy because I want to get right to him. I mentioned before, so many things going on. I mean, there's plenty of consideration about the Trump legal situation, predicament, I'll just call it. And David has weighed in on it before, but I'll ask him to just reiterate some of his thoughts on this situation now that we've seen the indictment, more or less. And then I want to ask him about the Wisconsin situation and the viability of removing this newly elected Supreme Court justice by the supermajority GOP in Wisconsin. Please welcome a guy who is, I call him the legal ninja. And I just heard him on British, was it British television you were on, David? David Katz, everybody.
Great. Am I coming in straight ahead? I came in
Yes, you're straight ahead. It's unbelievable.
Good.
I love it. This is insane. We've really evolved to a new place. I love this. David, was that television or radio or somewhere in Britain? You're making regular appearances in Britain on British media.
I'm on Times of London Radio. It's the most listened to radio station. It's morning drive time. And they're fascinated, of course, with Trump having to appear in New York for his arraignment. So we did 3 nights in a row. And the last night, actually, it's morning over there, right?
Sure.
When we did the night after Trump's afternoon appearance in New York City, I was on that night. So it was great. And I used to be on CNN worldwide. People said that I would be immediately recognized in Hong Kong. Of course, still a stranger in my own land.
You're no stranger here, sir, but that is very funny. All right, look, you've been a prosecutor, now you're a defense attorney, you're a prosecutor at the federal level, I mean, and you've, by the way, just to reiterate, you've always maintained, when we discussed the Trump charges, that these should have been brought in by the feds, and at the federal level, in other words, that you somehow don't like the fact that, I shouldn't say somehow, you said you don't like the fact that these are being brought as state charges, correct?
Well, I like them as federal charges. I used to have more of a problem with the statute of limitations. I can explain really briefly to your listeners why I'm not so worried about that anymore with the state charges. But I think that one of the problems is the optics, the perception. It's not in the court of law, it's in the court of public opinion. But that if you have the situation that we have now, where they could say, you know what, this was a clear federal charge, and it wasn't Barr, it wasn't Trump's man, it was Biden. And Biden's Attorney General, Merrick Garland, he didn't bring the charge. It was timely. And so it looks like a more down the middle, objective prosecutor looked at it, decided not to proceed on it. And yet here is a elected district attorney in heavily Democratic New York City who's politically going after Trump. Now, I don't think that that is actually the situation. I discount all of that stuff about Soros. The fact is that Soros did give a lot of money to elect progressive district attorneys all over the country.
But not specifically to Bragg.
And in New York and in the Bay Area and LA, there was no prospect of any of them indicting Trump. And so he didn't give this money to the DA in New York so that he would indict Trump. He gave it generally to organizations that would help progressive prosecutors running for office. And Bragg was one such prosecutor. So, they've tried to sort of obscure the fact that there was no quid pro quo, as Trump might say. Having said that, they shouldn't deny that there was no connection at all, because there was $500,000 that went from Soros's pocket to an organization's pocket that then went to Bragg's campaign. That's a fact, Mark.
Yeah, well, but I think you make the specific, which is quite important to that fact, which is it went into a pot the same way money and donations go into a pot to elect right-wing candidates or GOP candidates or even the campaign for just legislation that generally reflects the view of the GOP. They have pots of gold that do that, if just to extend the pot metaphor. I mean, meaning they have collections of money that do that. And in this case, from the collection of money, of course, progressive or Democratic leaning prosecutors are and DAs are being supported.
Mark, so let me add this too. I do think that there's an aspect to this which is political, if you want to say, but not partisan. In other words, I think that the DA in New York did make a political calculation that not proceeding against Trump at all would not help him in the re-election, and that proceeding against Trump on what he felt was a case that was righteous did help him politically. But I mean, all politicians make political calculations. I think even Merrick Garland and the administration made a political calculation because, they had this story. I just hear so much stuff, and most of the nonsense is from the right, but there's a little bit of stuff I disagree with on the left. And, I try to be not right, not left, just right, not wrong. Just if you went to a lawyer and you said to him, what is your legal opinion about these issues? Try to give them straight on a legal opinion, and then people can draw their own conclusions. I know some of your listeners probably think that I trend left, but I try to just get it right, Mark. And
well, so even if your disposition is trending left, you try to be objective in your legal appraisal of all these things and questions that we present to you and that you see. I think your record is replete with examples of that. You'll say this case is weak. I wouldn't do. You don't always just. You're not just a rah-rah analyst, which is one of the great things about you. But let me ask you about this case specifically. Now that we've seen, and I use in quotes the 34 counts. Tell me about the viability of this case, and you have always talked about the other cases, the ones that really have greater weight, perhaps legally, and also perhaps are more damning from the standpoint of what was done by Trump, at least, or allegedly.
Right. I think the Georgia case is very strong because there's a phone call by Trump into Georgia where he says, find me another 11,000 votes. The election had been counted 3 times. There was no doubt that the count was right. The only interpretation I think a jury would reach is that find me meant concoct me, figure out some way that you can say, 12,000 votes were just found somewhere. I think that case is going to go in 2 stages, that first they're going to try to get people like Meadows or Giuliani and then try to flip them against Trump. So I don't see that case happening before the 2024 election. The federal case, there's 2 of them. They're being handled by a special prosecutor. I think that the insurrection case is strong. I've always thought that while it's very divisive, it's also very strong. I think the keys to that are 3.5 hours. He didn't tamp down the insurrection once the coup was starting. He waited to see if the coup would put him in office. And if he did, that was wonderful. That was exactly what he wanted. And when he saw the coup was failing because the National Guard and the police were finally showing up, then he said, you're great people, go home. I also think he gave an incendiary speech. that after that, he told people to march to the Capitol. I'll go there with you. I think the whole sequence of events going up to it is a very good charge of insurrection. And I think that one's viable. I think that there's nothing about the fact that Biden and Pence may have had some classified documents in various places. None of that excuses Trump. That's a whataboutism, Mark, that Trump did things that were totally different. He took a mass of them. They said top secret all over them. You couldn't miss it. He apparently then looked at some of them, deciding which ones to keep. He moved them around and told them they were in one place where he'd move them to another place. I think his own lawyer is going to say that Trump was on a campaign of deception, his own lawyer who's been forced to testify. And then he obviously BS'd the FBI and the people who were trying to recover those documents, saying in a certification he didn't have any, when in fact he did have many of them. Having said all of that, I do believe that the New York case brought by the DA is the weakest case because I think it has these intent problems in terms of boosting it up to a felony, these 34 counts. And I'll go into more depth on that if you'd like.
Yeah, I wish you would, because that is the key here. And so many have pointed to this in the chat even, like if they can get it up to a felony, then he can be found guilty. Wouldn't he then be ineligible to become president, this kind of thing? And Kim, did you have something as well? Kim is muted. Unmute and
I got it. Sorry. So this is the question that I had for you, David Katz.
Go ahead, Kim.
The elevating of the charges from misdemeanors to felonies is based on the fact that, or the allegation that these document, how to cover up the money, that was done in the assistance of a larger crime. That crime being the swaying of the election of 2016, right? So I guess, how do you prove that by covering up these affairs, he would or would not have won? How do you prove that it swayed the election? Because I was mentioning to Mark earlier, during the same time frame, that's when you had the grab him by the pee video that came out, and that didn't sway the election. So how does anyone know that the Trump supporters would have cared one way or another about whether or not he had an affair with a Playboy playmate or a porn star or a hooker?
Well, Kim, that's a great question. He only had to have that bad intent. He didn't have to follow through, and there didn't have to be any result that actually bolsters it. Now, of course, one of the arguments that you don't have bad intent is that the thing you supposedly had bad intent to do, you never ended up doing. And then you say, well, that really should shade your thinking on whether I had bad intent or not. But it's not necessary that he sway the election. And the 3 points are, to go into a little bit of detail, because I think it's necessary. In June 2015, he announces his candidacy. About a month later, he meets, this is not disputed, with this fellow Pecker, who's from the National Enquirer tabloid. He says, Mr. Trump, I like your candidacy. I'm going to catch and kill bad stories about you. Then he indeed catches and kills the bad story that Playboy model Karen McDougall is going to sell. Now, if you just didn't want your wife to find out, you treat that in various ways. If you'd say, whatever you do, kill it, pay $150,000, pay whatever it is. But Trump doesn't pay that money. The one who actually pays the money is the National Enquirer guy, and then he buries the story. Why would he buy a story for $150,000 and then bury it, make no money from it, except to contribute to the campaign of Trump? That's his way of giving Trump a $150,000 contribution. That's all very nice, but that has to be declared. Even if it's legal under both New York law and under federal law, it has to be declared under both laws. And so Trump is intending, the argument goes, and it supports a felony, to violate federal law if Merrick Garland had charged him, and it's good if the DA charged him because he was trying to violate state laws. After that, soon before the election, and after the Access Hollywood tape comes out and obviously does damage to him. I mean, at some point, you just can't take that much incoming as a candidate. Yes, you can take 3 shots, but maybe the 4th one will be the straw that breaks the camel's back. And this was going to be the straw that broke the camel's back. She's an adult actress. It's a one-night stand. You can call it whatever you want to call it, but none of it looks good to the religious right he's trying to get to vote for him, to swing voters, to women in the suburbs he's trying to get to vote for him. And so he says to the Enquirer, won't you catch this one too? And he says, I'm out. I gave you the $150,000. You and Michael Cohen have to deal with this one. And so they come up with this scheme, and I think there's no doubt about this for the misdemeanor charge, that they're going to pay her off, and then Trump's going to reimburse Cohen. Now, one of the interesting things about the tape is that Trump says, you know what, why don't we just hold her off until after the election? If I win, great, who's going to care? If I lose, I sure as hell don't want to reach in my pocket and pay anybody $130,000 if I'm going to lose in 2 weeks. And then a very interesting thing happens. The negotiations falter, and the negotiator, the lawyer for Stormy Daniels, said, you know what, if this all blows up, the money's never paid, you and I look terrible. Now, Trump's going to try to exploit that to say, I didn't intend to go through with this scheme, the Stormy Daniels one. This was Michael Cohen pressuring me because Michael Cohen was going to look terrible. Michael wanted a job in the White House. Michael knew if I won, I wasn't going to give him a job in the White House if he looked terrible. So this was Michael's thing. And what refutes that, and that's sort of one of the things, well, no one should believe Michael Cohen. He's a convicted felon. Even though he's the inside guy, nobody should believe him. But the reason that people should believe him is because it's so much like what they did with McDougall. It's part of a big piece. And then the DA threw in the doorman too. The doorman also shows up at this point. He claims he knows something. Whether it's true or not, they're scared enough of what the doorman knows or claims he knows that they give him $30,000. So when you add the three together, you say, really? Trump's motive was that his wife not find out? Why didn't he care when Stormy Daniels came forward like 10 or 11 years before, or whatever it was, many years before with this story? If Melania was going to find out, she was going to find out then. Trump didn't care at all. When did Trump care about all of these things? Only when he was running for president. And they're going to say on top of that, this was all preparatory to cheating on his taxes. He was going to cheat on his New York taxes. At least that was his intent. Then they say, well, wait a second. It shows that that wasn't his intent because ultimately we don't know whether he cheated on his taxes. We don't ultimately know, did he write off the $400,000 that he paid to Cohen so that Cohen would claim it was a legal fee, but it actually get reimbursed for a payoff? How do we know that he wrote it off on his taxes? And the implication by Trump's lawyers is he never wrote it off on his taxes, which in my opinion makes him even more guilty. Because if it was a righteous tax write-off, if you really had paid legal fees, of course you'd write them off on your corporate returns. The fact that they balked at the end and didn't write them off shows that they had the bad intent. And then while he was president, he said, you know what? I stepped on too many lines already. I'm not going to step on this one. I'm not going to write this one off. Why not, if it was a legitimate legal fee, which was the mischaracterization in those business records that forms the misdemeanor? And then, Kim, as I said, you see what forms the felony, supposedly, allegedly. And I think that's good. I think he's going to be convicted in the end, but it won't be before the 2024 election up in New York City.
First of all, that was like the greatest summation given of all the cases at one time. And for that, I give you mad ass applause. But the second thing I want to ask as a follow-up to what you've just said is, why has it taken so long then, David Katz, to bring a case of the sort that you've just described? That's not even going to make, the one in New York City is not even going to make it to the finish line before the 2024 election.
I think there was a very mixed bunch of thoughts that the DA had. You know, I was a prosecutor myself. I, of course, never had that high profile a case. But I think he was waiting for Merrick Garland. And once it wasn't timely, so the last payment in the cover-up was the end of 2017. That's when Michael Cohen is reimbursed for the last time under this fiction that it was a legal fee, which he had not spent $400,000 worth of time so that it was a legal fee. That was obviously a cover-up, obviously a false record. So you date it 5 years from there federally. There aren't a lot of things that toll, that means stop the running of the statute of limitations. So it was 5 years. And so I think that when 2022 came along, the end of 2022, that's when the federal statute of limitations ran on this bunch of episodes with Stormy Daniels and McDougall and the doorman. So now he had to fish or cut bait, okay? He had an additional 5 months. And the reason that he had additional 5 or 6 months is that Governor Cuomo during the pandemic extended the statute of limitations. And that's proper. Since the statute hadn't run, you can extend it on someone before the statute's run on his or her conduct. And so Bragg had this 5 or 6 months after December that he had to decide. So I think he was running a bit of a deadline to tuck it in. And I think he tucked it in under New York law. And then I think he was also I think it helps him get reelected. I think that this Pomerantz, who was one of the two special prosecutors who'd been hired under his predecessor, Cyrus Vance, wrote this book that was embarrassing. And I think that there was this question about bringing the undervaluation and the overvaluation of assets. You know, the Trump special, where you tell the IRS and the state tax people you're a pauper, and you tell the insurance companies and the banks that you're richer than anyone who's ever lived. And on the same asset. So the apartment is undervalued and the apartment is overvalued. You compare the two of them. I used to do that as a prosecutor and tell the defense attorney, okay, does your client want to plead to wire fraud or tax fraud? Because these two documents don't make any sense. They're both your IRS return for that year, and you told the bank that you had so much, and you told the IRS you had so little. But for some reason, they didn't want to proceed with that. And I think it's because Weisselberg took his, the CFO of the Trump organization, he took his 5 months at Rikers Island, and he didn't really rat on Trump, not on the whole breadth of what he did. My speculation is that Trump had things on other people near and dear to Weisselberg, and Weisselberg said, you know what, I'm going to man up, I'm going to do my 5 months, and I'm going to let the ball stop rolling here. That is a very dim view that I have of Trump, and I think history will prove me right.
No, I suspect you're right. In our last couple of minutes with David Katz, the great former assistant U.S. attorney, prosecutor for the feds, and now a defense attorney, I want to ask you what's going on in Wisconsin. The liberal party that followed the election of finally a liberal Supreme Court justice in Wisconsin has been a short-lived one, because the supermajority now, the GOP supermajority in Wisconsin, is talking about the very real possibility of removing this newly elected justice through impeachment, which they can do, as I say, because they have a supermajority. Can you speak to that?
Well, my wife is from Wisconsin. She's a graduate of the University of Wisconsin, and the family is from there. I spend the holidays back there. I follow Wisconsin politics, which is fascinating and scary the last few years. This one is particularly significant. They spent over $40 million pro and con on this one Supreme Court justice seat, and it's worth it because with it goes probably whether abortion is going to be allowed, a woman's right to choose is going to be respected in Wisconsin or not. When the next election comes around, whether they send some crazy slate that's been chosen by the legislature or they send the slate that's voted in by the people of Wisconsin, that may be one of her decisions. And also gerrymandering in general. The state is unbelievably gerrymandered. And as you mentioned, it's a swing state, and yet it has a 2/3 majority of Republicans in the state Senate. That's how gerrymandered it is.
And by the way, David, not to interrupt, but yet to interrupt, I would just say that it's so gerrymandered that there's no risk that we're at those gerrymandered states, areas in the state, not reversed. There'd be no way for Democrats to regain control. I mean, that's how extremely gerrymandered it is. So this would help undo some of that, which would be required were the Democrats to really have a shot at an equal share at the table when it comes to representation in Wisconsin.
It would undo some of that. And as you mentioned, the state is actually Democratic enough that it has a Democratic governor. It has a Democratic, I think, attorney general. And now it has this 4-3 majority on the Supreme Court elected by the people statewide. So yes, they would try to do something about that. Now, because they have a majority in the House and they have a supermajority in the Senate, they're in the situation where Trump could have been impeached, right? And so now this Supreme Court justice could be impeached. You have a simple vote of the House accusing her, and then you have the Senate voting by a 2/3 majority. They need every single Republican to fall in line in order to do that, and they'd have to trump up, to use that expression, some cause. But, if you really want to impeach somebody, you trump up some cause and you just do it. This is what makes me crazy about the Democrats, because you would think that in the next couple of months, they would decide the abortion question, so at least it would be a precedent, and they would decide some of these gerrymandered issues. Having said that, Mark, a Supreme Court can't just reach out and say, we want to decide this. A case has to arrive in due course, present the issues, be justiciable. And then the other question that I have is, would the Republicans, really do it? Isn't there at least one Republican who who would be pressured. Let's say it was they were going to remove her for her abortion vote. Wouldn't there be one Republican in the Senate who could be pressured to say, you know what, let's not remove her from office? But yes, it'll be a tug of war between a 2/3 Republican Senate and the 4-3 majority on the Wisconsin Supreme Court, which is, we call her Judge Janet.
Yeah, I mean, it was an extraordinary victory, also extraordinary for the size of the victory. But now there is this additionally extraordinary aspect to it. David, so appreciate your time. You're so generous to join us. I'm telling you, you're the sage. We love checking in with you, and I love hearing you on British radio. I find that there's a certain, shall we say, formality and dignity to the British. Wouldn't you agree, David?
You know, Boris Johnson's in a lot of trouble, but he hasn't been handcuffed either yet. But Boris Johnson, they're reporting on him like crazy.
Oh, of course.
They compare him to Trump over there.
Yeah, they've got their own Trump.
Can we keep David Katz? I just want to keep him.
He is great. He is terrific.
Yeah.
But sadly, we must let him go. But we can keep him
next week. Kim, I'll see you next week. Promise.
Can one more question?
Please.
Because I think Mark asked about Wisconsin, but not Tennessee. These 3 Democratic lawmakers in Tennessee that protested with the
it's the same deal, right?
Same deal.
Removed. Well, the same deal, then they can be removed with a supermajority.
Can they really kick them out?
They probably can. I mean, they would sue in court, but you know, these legislatures can be very, very slanted if they want to be, where they could start expelling people. And then, of course, the people who elected them say, wait a second, what happened to my representation? But that is our system of justice. One last thing, if I could just take 30 more seconds. Justice Thomas is again in trouble. Now it turns out that he's gallivanted around the world on the nickel of a Texas oil man. And my question about all of this is, if he's ever mentioned these junkets that he and his wife, Ginny, take on the nickel or on the $1 million of this person, don't they have some responsibility? Why do they have this aura of silence over there? I bet you he's told Alito, right? I'll bet you he's told the Chief Justice. I'll bet you he's told other people on the court. He's told other people. Why are they all staying mum about this? Yes, maybe they can't remove him. Maybe there's no code of ethics that technically applies to him, but he should be shamed everywhere. That is a bribe. I will say it. If I ever argue in the U.S. Supreme Court, I'm not getting Thomas's vote anyway. I will say it. This is a bribe. This is a national disgrace on the level of what we see in other countries where someone's just bought and paid for. And they say, well, we agreed on everything, so he's not bought and paid for. I would have given him the money anyway. Really? I don't see this Texas oil man giving any other judges or justices money. And if he did, he ought to come forward and tell us what other judges and justices has he been giving these huge junkets to, yacht trips, free flights, you know, you name it. Justice Thomas and Ginny Thomas have gotten it from this oil man who obviously has a political and legal agenda in front of the Supreme Court. Whether he's talked to about specific cases or not, I'll tell you every issue he cares about, and I'll tell you that Thomas has voted with him on every one of those issues. It's just, as an attorney, it's a disgrace. Our other judges aren't like that. The judges throughout the system have a code of ethics, Mark and Kim. And why is the Supreme Court exempt from having any code of ethics? It's just wrong.
We were talking about this in the first hour. I'm so glad you brought it up.
Investigate it. Don't you think the Senate, they have 51 Democrats, they ought to investigate this?
I said from the very beginning, I would, if I were looking at talking points that Democrats should constantly bring up, it would be, and I'm talking about right away when Thomas became a justice, and when Ginny Thomas floated to the surface on J6, that's all I'd be talking about. I'd return to it all the way. He's a compromised judge. Look at him. He doesn't recuse himself. Look at how Ginny Thomas is actually paid by the group funded by the Crow guy. He's the rich billionaire that David's talking about, who's paying for all these trips. He's also paying for a bunch of other stuff that then siphons off money to Ginny Thomas. She made a salary off of the donations that he made to her Tea Party group, and she's funding a bunch of J6 stuff. There is a compromise on the highest level. I love that you call it bribery, because that's exactly what it is. Thank you, David Katz.
Great to be with both of you.
Yes, to be continued. David Katz, everybody, come on. Love it, love it, love it.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Love my David Katz. Wow. He really came out with throwing the heat. It was good. I will encourage them. Now we're a little behind.
I'm sorry, I did that.
I think you did, but you actually got him to not through your question, but then he did digress to something I had intended to ask him about anyway, which is the Clarence Thomas thing. So it was very cool. And your question was very good as well, asking about Tennessee. What would you like to do? We have no producer. Albert, thank you.
Albert, thank you.
We have no Tony today.
Thanks, Tony.
We only have a few minutes. I tend to feel we have a fork in the road, and here's the fork.
Okay.
We can either go to your news, do a brief group watch of McDougall talking to Anderson Cooper after that, or we can dispense with news, and we can just do the group watch of McDougall with Anderson Cooper.
Right.
But I kind of like your news, as you know. So my vote would be to take your news, then do a little Anderson Cooper, and then close out the. But before you tell me what you would like to do.
Yeah.
Speaking of voting.
Now.
I can't believe it!
Mark's Madness.
A champion will be crowned tomorrow on this show. It can only be one of these two, and you vote for both. Or either, I should say. Both are alive until midnight tonight in the community section of our YouTube channel. Either you vote for...
Good day, sir!
Wow, or you vote for...
Where are my weed smokers at?
It's good day or weed. Vote now and until midnight tonight, and good luck! Now, Kim, what would you like to do?
Why don't I do a quick run-through of headlines?
Good.
So we can get to more of McDougall.
Love it! Let's do it!
Hey, which one do you use, Mark Thompson?
This is Mark Thompson.
All about it, everybody.
The Mark Thompson Show.
This is the Mark Thompson Show. Rockets were fired from Lebanon into Israel today, with at least one being intercepted. Here's the way it looks over there. One intercepted by the Iron Dome defense system over the northern part of the country. The attack came not long after Hezbollah in Lebanon pledged to support all measures Palestinians may take against Israel after violence at a mosque in Jerusalem. So things heating up in that part of the world. Final test results show Pfizer's experimental RSV vaccine was 82% effective in preventing severe infections in infants when given to expectant mothers in the second half of their pregnancies. The drug maker said the trial's details published on Wednesday confirmed preliminary data from this study. Pfizer releasing initial trial results from the vaccine to fight this respiratory virus, RSV. Tesla has snapped up a large industrial space in the East Bay. How many pictures? So I'll go back to my cartoon, which I love. The nearly 150,000 square foot distribution warehouse in Hayward just recently became available. No word yet what Tesla plans to do with that space. Google publishing details about its AI supercomputer yesterday. The search giant said its model is faster and more efficient than NVIDIA's market-leading systems. Google has been designing an AI chip since 2016 and using it internally, while NVIDIA garnered 90% of the market.
There's never been anything like this.
Oh, wow.
Speaking of AI, Meta's CEO Mark Zuckerberg spends most of his time working on the company's new artificial intelligence unit. This, according to the company's chief technology officer. The Facebook and the Instagram parent announced in February that it is now focused on generative AI.
Wow.
I have a busy week.
Yeah, that does. Generative AI will make you busy.
Just a couple more stories for you. The man accused of conspiring with Alex Murdaugh in a failed suicide for hire plot is out of jail. Curtis Eddie Smith released from a South Carolina detention center yesterday over health concerns. Murdaugh apparently asked Smith to murder him so Murdaugh could leave insurance money to his surviving son, Buster.
Wow.
Smith,
I misspoke.
Smith missed the mark. Couldn't quite pull it off. No.
My bad.
My bad. I'm sorry.
Wow.
Oopsies. Yeah. Walt Disney World bringing back its annual pass program. The company says they'll resume sales later this month. And the Masters are underway from Augusta, Georgia. Tiger Woods has already teed off this morning in golf's premier tournament.
I think it's the Masters is underway. They call it the Masters, but they're not multiple Masters.
Okay,
not to be
I would agree
difficult
with you.
about it, but
I would agree with you. My bad. I'm sorry.
That conversation.
Yes, I
The
think
Masters is underway. That's
you stand corrected. Would you say that?
I stand corrected.
If it's a field of many Masters, maybe
But
they
it's not.
are underway.
Yeah,
It is not.
no, it would be. You're right. If it were that, it would be, but it's not. So
My words upset so many people.
I don't think so many people. And I wasn't upset about it. I just thought I would mention it. That's all.
And I wanted to apologize to the Asian community, the Asian American community.
I mean,
Look,
God
they were
knows what
affected.
would have happened if you hadn't corrected me. So I'm so happy to be
Thank you
corrected.
so much.
I'm sorry. I couldn't let it. I thought I don't say anything, Mark, but
Sometimes you just can't help yourself, can you?
I couldn't, and it's really a problem. I'll be honest with you. It's a problem that I'm working on, but I still have a lot of work to do. So.
There's sometimes you just can't help yourself.
I just can't. It's a brutal failing of mine, if I can say that.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I'll give you that.
This show is crowdfunded.
Right.
Thank you to those of you in the Mark Thompson Show community for being here with us. If you would like to support the show, the super chat here on YouTube is live, but even better, themarkthompsonshow.com is where you will find the PayPal and the Patreon link, and we thank you for any support you can offer this crowdfunded show. I'm Kim McAllister on The Mark Thompson Show.
They had to close down an entire radio station to silence him. And now, he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Thompson.
Stay at home and get baked.
Phil McCracken. Phil McCracken.
I've told you, it's never easy being in this business.
My words upset so many people.
Well, welcome to Family Feud, everybody. I'm your man, Steve Harvey.
Personal belief reason.
Do I hit it long? Is Trump strong? Huh?
Baby girl, don't worry about me. We lit.
Screw your freedom.
I had a good time at the Black Cat.
Straight up right in, no problem.
What you say is the political dogma that they're trying to shove down our throats.
It was wrong, it was stupid, and I'm trying to be a better person.
God bless America. The end.
Someone did this to spoil our Christmas.
There's a reason that this place is fun.
What up, everybody? It is the last few minutes of our show. It is so great to have you with us, and appreciate all the ways that you support us. We have updated, I think for tomorrow, probably it'll be updated, the Patreon and PayPal contributors. You'll all be seen at the end of the show. We scroll you every day because we appreciate so much the way that you do support us. We're crowdfunded, as Kim was mentioning before. And, frankly, without that crowdfunding, we go away. So I know we have some...
I don't want to go away.
No. New subscribers. And we will acknowledge you in the days ahead as well, separately from the crawl. But I did want to let you know that we're updating the crawl. Tony's doing that. Tony's working KFI today in Los Angeles. So... Tony. We're trying to get all the people together. Albert's got his thing.
Albert, thank you.
He's working that. So all of that continues. But before we left you today, we wanted to do something. Kim and I were talking about, and by the way, Belinda, who normally is heard at this time, She is off this week. I think she is dealing with a medical situation, so hope that's all working out. But we will have her next week, or we'll do some news of the environment next week. I did want to, just in the miasma of the Trump thing, and miasma is certainly a ding word. I don't even know if it's the right word, but anyway. We wanted to go back and look at this interview, which did air on CNN with the ex-Playboy model, Karen McDougall. She told her story about Donald Trump, about meeting him, about dating him for about 10 months. And she met him many times to have romantic trysts of one sort or another. She met him at the Beverly Hills Hotel. She met him at various, through the back entrance to his place in Manhattan, to various residences.
So she says.
Yeah, so she says. Anyway, we were watching a little bit last night. And I don't know what we're going to see, but Kim, go ahead and play whatever you want.
So I might skip around a little bit, but this first part is Karen McDougall talking about her first so-called date with former President Trump and how he treated her like a hooker. She's a Playboy playmate. I mean, one could argue that you're selling your body for sexual reasons. I don't know, but she's not a hooker.
Okay.
For that night? You said you sort of ended on a strange note. So what happened after you had been intimate? Well, after we had been intimate, he tried to pay me, and I actually didn't know how to take that. Did he actually try to hand you money? He did. He did. And I said, I just had this look of, I don't know, I don't even know how to describe it. The look in my face must have been so sad, because I had never been offered money like that before, number one. But number two, I thought, does he think that I'm in this for money, or why I'm here tonight? Or is this a normal thing?
Do you think I don't have a Patreon subscription area?
That's not me. I'm not that kind of girl.
Please don't give me the cash.
And he said, you're really special. And I was like, thank you. So I left. I actually got into the car for Keith to take me home, and I started crying.
Keith is the driver, who she said is very nice.
But I went back.
Special, Karen.
Hurt you that he saw you in that way? Yes, it hurt me that he saw me in that light. And he obviously assumed that that's the kind of girl I was. Maybe because I was a playmate. I don't know, but even though you'd had a night of conversation and days of conversation, it hurt you that it boiled down in the end to that. It did hurt me. It did hurt me. I was crying in the backseat of the car. Like I said, I got home and into my apartment, and I cried for a lot. I felt really terrible about myself. Let alone
she would have been a great Bachelor contestant. You know, she cries a lot, very emotional.
And when I got with him, actually, there was a real relationship there. There were real feelings between the two of us, not just myself, not just him. There was a real relationship there, and I kind of out of sight, out of mind with everything else. And deep inside, I did have a lot of guilt, but I still continued. You believe, though, that he had real feelings for you? Of course he did. I know he did.
Yeah, right.
He would say that. He did. Were you in love with him?
He did. He said that. Go back. Were you in love with him? She was. Yeah.
I did have a lot of guilt, but I still continued. You believe, though, that he had real feelings for you? Of course he did. I know he did. He would say that. He did. Were you in love with him? I was, yeah. And do you think he was in love with you? He was, yeah. Did Donald Trump ever say to you that he loved you? All the time. He always told me he loved me. Yeah, of course. Did he have any nicknames for you? He would call me baby, or he'd call me beautiful Karen. Would you always see him just in Los Angeles? No, I wouldn't. I actually went to a golf tournament with him in Lake Tahoe. I went to his golf course in California. I went to his golf course home in New Jersey. I went to his home in New York. And I'm trying to think where else.
All over the place, we did it.
I can't recall right now. Yeah.
Good for him.
When you say you would arrange to go someplace, how would it be arranged? I would pay for the flight. I would book it myself. I would book the hotel room if I wasn't staying with him.
Two nice qualities, cheaper and better.
And then he would reimburse me. So if the flight was, I don't know, let's just throw out a number. If the flight was $500, he'd give me $500 and say, here's,
take care of the flight and things like that. So
why
not
would
a
he
hooker.
have you
And
book
this is
all
important.
the travel and the hotel rooms?
well, there's no paper trail.
That's the reason.
And did you realize that at the time?
Yes, I did. Mm-hmm.
Because he was concerned about it being revealed at some point and there being a paper trail.
All I was told is there's no paper trail. I can't say what his reasons were, but I would assume that's the case. Yes.
And
I just need to get
Put
out
up
of
your
it.
pants,
It's
my
just tearing me
man.
apart
Pull up those
in the long
pants.
run.
Stop that.
that's a hard thing to do, to end a relationship, any relationship.
It was very hard, but I knew I needed to get out.
How did you end it?
He wasn't in town, and I just simply said, look, this isn't working for me. And he's like, why not? And I told him, I blamed it on my mom. I said, look, I know my mom knows about you, but she would be really, really devastated if she found out we were actually having a relationship and being intimate together, and the feelings, and I don't want to disappoint my mom. And he said a few words, and that was about it. But it is what it is. We ended it, and we didn't talk for a long time again. We started talking again in 2009. I went to the Miss on one of the pageants in Vegas with a girlfriend of mine. We weren't together, but we talked a lot. We went to his room and just chit-chatted.
He invited you to the pageant?
He did. He got us a room at the Trump Hotel in Vegas, a suite, really nice one. And, there were no intimate relations. I had a boyfriend at the time, so there was nothing like that at all. And then we stayed in contact for a little bit, and then we lost contact.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you.
She goes on to talk about how he brought her to the Trump Tower in New York, the home that he shared with Melania, and gave her the tour. And she talks about feeling guilty standing in their bedroom and knowing that it was wrong. And the end of this interview ends with Anderson Cooper asking her if she has any words to Melania. No. And she says, and she kind of gets tears in her eyes, and she just says, my only words to her would be, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
My bad. I'm sorry.
Right. I get how you get drunk on the lifestyle. You get drunk on a limo being sent for you, the driver taking you to a private entrance at the Trump Tower. You're with the guy who's the golf course is named after. I mean, I think there's a heavy dose of that. I also think, as I've told you, that Donald Trump can be charming in his own way. Mm-hmm. It's the mobster way.
She says it was the charisma that she fell for. She also says she liked his posture. That was attractive to her.
What?
A guy with good posture. It's all about how straight do you stand?
Maybe he can run on posture. Make that part of his, I don't know. When I think of posture, I don't think of Donald Trump having such great posture. But anyway, interesting. Thank you for that.
Apparently, he cheated on her the whole time. And she said she was shocked by this. She doesn't know how he had time at that Lake Tahoe golf event to cheat with Stormy Daniels when she had been there, unless he hooked up with Stormy the day that she left, she said. She's not the only person during this time frame of this 10-month period alleged to have been sleeping with or doing things with the former president. Yeah. But it surprises me.
Well, it doesn't take long. I mean, to just, to roll around. I mean, he wasn't romancing a lot of these other women. No. He was just hooking up with them. So.
But how do you feel like this is a guy who's cheating on his wife who just had a baby, right? Barron had just been born. Why do you think that if he's cheating on his wife with you and you're a Playboy playmate, that somehow he's going to remain faithful to you?
Yeah, no. Cheaters got to cheat.
That's
absolutely right.
Yeah.
I'm looking in the chat. I wanted to see if there was anything in the chat. I cheated on Karen with Stormy. That's right. Julie's right. I mean, that's what happened. You want to be involved with someone who doesn't want to leave a paper trail?
Yeah, red flag.
That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that in a man. Somebody who doesn't want me to leave a paper trail.
Now, I can't believe it! Mark's Madness.
All right, till midnight tonight, everybody. The voting goes on in Mark's Madness. It's the last day of it. Tomorrow we crown a champion. It'll either be...
Where are my weed smokers at?
Where are my weed smokers at, or...
Good day, sir!
They have weathered the storm. Either...
Where are my weed smokers at?
Or...
Good day, sir!
So you'll vote in the community section of our YouTube channel. And tomorrow, in addition to all the other Friday stuff, we will crown a winner. I'm excited about it. As you know, I love Mark's Madness. A lot of other people do, too. And why shouldn't we end the week with a strong performance from two OGs? Where my weed smokers at and Good Day, Sir. I mean, this is a tournament that brought a lot of Cinderella stories to the Elite Eight and then to the Final Four and to the semifinals, but ultimately... Like, for example, I should say, seriously, what the F? It was knocked off, finally.
Here's how it looks right now.
Yeah.
Where my weed smokers at, 44%, to Good Day, Sir, at 56%.
Wow, Good Day, Sir is pulling ahead.
Yeah.
Man, it's either...
Where are my weed smokers at?
Yeah, or...
Good Day, Sir!
Wow, the classics. All right. Nikki's show goes off now. Check it out on the Nikki Maduro channel. I'll see you tomorrow for Florida.
I'm Sheriff Stevens for the Mark Johnson Show. Bye-bye.
For politics and Snyder's Culture Blaster.
Bye-bye.
All movie stuff tomorrow, and we crown a champion. Till then, bye-bye.